president has shown support for South African refugees that are coming to the United States next week. Can you talk about what these refugees are fleeing and why this is a priority for the administration?
Well, the president has actually signed an executive order on that matter. My office can get it back to you, Michael. But this group in South Africa has faced racial persecution. In fact, the government there has vowed to take away their farmland that they own. And so the president has talked significantly about this. As for further details on refugee claims and asylum claims, I would defer you to the State Department.
These are the descendants of the people who created the most diabolical system of white supremacy in human history, apartheid. They're not directly responsible for it, but it was a system that actually moved black people off of the arable land. So they inherited the land that the black people had to give up. It was called forced removal. It was something called a Bantustan policy, where they moved black people out of the cities and farmlands into these remote areas with non-arable land. I mean, it was just one of the most worst processes ever. But what has happened in this strange, bizarre world we're living in is that the Afrikaners have become the darling of these right-wing white supremacist movements around the world. That it's like the lost cause for them. It's like the old Confederacy. They're held up as these white Christians who are being dispossessed of their land. It's like this is a modern replacement theory in a country where, by the way, white people make up 7% of the population and own 78% of the farmland. So it's actually, there's no injustice here.
They only want white people here. Because when we think about refugees who need immediate resettlement, expedited screenings, we usually think about people who are fleeing extreme violence, persecution, famine, war in places like South Sudan, Myanmar, the Congo, not white Afrikaners. See that chartered plane the Trump administration is sending? It's not going to collect refugees that have been sitting in resettlement camps for years, fully vetted, waiting to come to the United States to escape violence. No, it's going to South Africa to collect white people who claim they're being discriminated against. Why would they be getting discriminated against? Probably because they spent generations instituting legalized forms of racial segregation and discrimination called apartheid, aka Stephen Miller's wet dream. See, while the rest of the world after World War II saw that maybe racial discrimination not such a hot idea and favored more policies of integration and away from colonization, Afrikaners doubled down on that shit and instituted apartheid. Although it ended over 30 years ago, the social and economic legacies of apartheid continue today. South Africa is the most unequal country in the entire world, according to the World Bank, with white South Africans earning over 12 times what black South Africans do. But don't worry, we're going to make sure that the white Afrikaners who instituted generations of discrimination and segregation against black people get everything they need to get started here in the United States in their new life.
White South African refugees just arrived in America and people are mad, like really mad. The internet is blowing up. Some Americans are asking, why are they even here? And others are saying, now you care about refugees? This story is getting wild and I'm here to break it down in plain and simple words. Let's kindly watch these trending videos. All credits to the owners. Let's watch them. We come back with more commentary.
Donald Trump is chartering a plane using U.S. taxpayer money to bring refugees from South Africa to America. Now let's think about this for just one moment. What is the same about all these South African refugees that we might notice? They're all white people. That's right. And so when we talk about deporting people, it appears that they're mostly non-white. But we can bring in South Africans who are white. And I just can't shake this feeling. I just can't shake this feeling that maybe, and I'm not saying it, I don't know, I'm not there, I'm not in the room when these conversations occur. It seems to me that it's possible that these guys in the White House are motivated by certain aspects of these people that they're bringing in and taking out. I'm not saying it's true.
So y'all want me to believe Trump is putting America first by allowing white Afrikaners to be refugees to come here to these United States of America and be provided housing, a cell phone, food, diapers, all that. Meanwhile, we have veterans, homeless, we have American taxpayers struggling. And you want me to believe he's not racist either, because God knows he's deporting undocumented taxpayers, okay? He's deporting babies who are 2 years old and can't fend for themselves, so they got to go with the family. They got deported, okay? Mind you, he's deporting people with visas who went through the legal process, but still getting rid of them. But we're going to invite these white Afrikaners here to America, and we're going to give you all the things you need. But he's not racist, and he's putting America first. That's the nation that I'm living in right now. That's the nonsense that you guys continue to speak, and the goalpost constantly moves. Y'all have no foundation of morals of anything. You don't.
So I just saw that the McDonald Trump administration just brought in a group of white South African refugees. And look, I want to be very clear. I don't have a problem with that. If people are in danger, if they're facing legitimate persecution, I'm glad we can offer them safety. That's what a decent country should do. But what I do have a problem with is the hypocrisy, because this same administration that just rolled out the red carpet for 59 white Afrikaners is the same one turning away brown and black immigrants fleeing violence, war, and political collapse. They're shutting down the refugee pipeline for Haitians, Venezuelans, Central Americans, Sudanese families, people who are just running for their lives. But suddenly, when it's a group that looks a little more familiar, the border opens up, the taxpayer dollars flow, and the compassion kicks in. Let's just call it what it is, selective empathy. Because don't forget, McDonald Trump shut down the entire refugee resettlement program in his first 100 days. People who had already been vetted and approved were left stranded. But somehow this group makes it through. I don't think that's a coincidence. That's a policy choice. So yeah, I'm happy these 59 people are safe. I wish them peace and healing. But I really wish that we would give a damn when the people knocking on the door weren't white, because compassion should not come with the skin tone requirement.
We gotta talk about what is happening in South Africa, more specifically what is happening to white South Africans. Because the first South Africans have now been picked up by a plane so they can be brought to the US, because Donald Trump believes that white South Africans are being oppressed in South Africa and that they are refugees. White South Africans make up around 7% of the country's population, but they still own 78% of private farmland in South Africa and have about 20 times the wealth of black South Africans. But according to Donald Trump, they're victims, they're refugees, and they have to be brought to the US and be helped. A reporter described seeing a queue full of white citizens with airport trolleys full of luggage waiting to have their passports stamped before they entered the departure lounge. Afrikaners are descendants of Dutch, German, and French colonizers that came to South Africa, and they're also the ones that benefited during the apartheid rule in South Africa that only stopped 30 years ago. They now make up around 60% of South Africa's white population. Both Trump and his apartheid bestie Elon Musk have claimed that white South Africans are the real oppressed people in South Africa. And they're suffering through a government-sponsored race-based discrimination, including racially discriminatory property confiscation. Because Trump believes that, South Africa is going to steal all the farmland from the white South Africans to give it to the bad black South Africans. As many as 1,000 Afrikaners could be admitted to the US this year. By the way, the normal refugee process in the US takes years, but Trump wouldn't want to make, the white South Africans wait. He's literally flying in the descendants of the main colonizers, saying that they're the oppressed group. Since Trump is very old, he was alive during apartheid, how often did you think he spoke up against it? White Afrikaners are amongst the most economically privileged group in South Africa. They're not being systemically oppressed, they're not being persecuted, and no, all of the farmland from the white people is not being taken and given to the black people. Farmland they only have because of colonization and the brutal oppression of black people in South Africa and other non-white minorities in South Africa. This also shows you that Trump is not in fact against immigrants or refugees as long as they have the right skin color, and as long as their mentality and their belief and history is something that he believes in. And to be honest, many people believe in, I have to 100% agree that Trump is going to try to take these white South Africans, a lot of whom have a farming background, to try and replace a lot of farm workers who are in the US right now and who are of Latin American descent, for example. That is definitely the end goal here.
Okay, let's talk about what's really happening. A group of white South Africans came to the US asking for refugee status. That means they're saying, we don't feel safe at home. We want protection here. Some say they are escaping violence, discrimination, or attacks back in South Africa. They are saying it's not safe for them anymore. Now, here is where it gets crazy. A lot of Americans are angry. People online are saying, wait, now white people are refugees too? Oh my God. We already have a refugee crisis. Why are we helping them? So when refugees are black or brown, you say no. But now that you are white, it's a different story. Others are saying America can't even take care of its own people. Why are we bringing more in? So yeah, there is a lot of mixed reactions. Some Americans feel like this is a special treatment. Yeah, like these refugees are getting help just because they are white. They feel like black or brown refugees don't get the same kindness or support. This is what they are saying online. And you know what? I get why people feel that way. Here is what I think. If someone is really in danger, no matter their skin color, they should be safe. Yeah, they should be safe. But we also have to be real. America hasn't always welcomed refugees with open arms. We all know this. So now that white people are showing up as refugees, of course, people are asking hard questions. Yeah, people have to ask more questions because they don't understand this. And some folks feel like this is a double standard. They are saying when Haitians or Syrians come, they get blocked. But now it's okay because they are white? Those are kind of questions people are asking themselves. That's not a small thing. That's a real conversation. Yeah. But also, let's not forget, refugees don't choose to run. Most of them leave everything behind: home, jobs, family. That's hard for anyone, no matter where they are from or what color they are. So the anger is not just at the refugees, it's about how unfair the system feels. What do you think? Is it fair how this is going down? Are people right to be mad, or are we being too quick to judge? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button if you are all about real talk. And don't forget to subscribe for more simple news reactions. See you in the next one. Bye.